Hello, and welcome back to another video. This video is for the decision makers, the founders, those that are going to become a founder or decision makers that are going to hire for their teams. And I want to talk about 4 mistakes you are making right now when it comes to interviewing and hiring. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Preston. I've been a specialized technical recruiter running our own agency for almost a decade. We work with all different types of companies, from your VC-backed hyper-growth companies to established legacies, Fortune 500 companies to agencies to all in between. I want to be able to kind of share this with you because I see a lot of these same things happening over and over again in the middle of 2024 while we're also just going through a very challenging market condition. So I hope that by addressing some, if not all of these, it can minimize a lot of the friction that you're experiencing right now when it comes to hiring for your team. So the first mistake that I see is founders or hiring managers just using job sites to hire to really attract active candidates. What I mean by active candidates are people who are actively out there submitting their resumes and cover letters to jobs. It usually will get centralized to some sort of database on Indeed or Monster, Career Builder, Craigslist, sites like these. If you're posting an ad out there, you'll get pinged every time someone submits a resume. So I do want to preface this that, this method still works and continues to work. It can be more effective depending on the sector you're in, the types of roles that you're in. But from our experience, when it comes to more specialized or hard to fill roles, you might end up actually wasting more time than you actually think. So we're filming this in 2024, where right now tech and many other industries are going through and have gone through many layoffs. A lot of really great talent, they're on the market right now looking for their next job. What could that mean? That means if you're on the company side, you go out there and you post a job, you'll get a ton of people responding, and you may think that's a good thing. But in reality, if you go through these resumes, you'll notice that majority of these resumes, unfortunately, are just not a good fit. What could be a consequence of that is you or your team just spending an inordinate amount of time just going through resumes, trying to find your diamond in the rough out of the ocean of resumes that came your way. And if you're a founder, if you're a decision maker, chances are going through your resume isn't your only scope. You have to worry more about your more primary kind of scope of responsibilities of your job, or even running or growing your company, right? No one wants to just waste time and hours going through all these resumes where most of them are just not going to be a good fit for you and your team. What you need to then do is be able to go after passive candidates that are perfect for what you're looking for. And then you have to be able to know how to identify them, how to contact them, how to qualify them, and then ultimately how to build up your pipeline from there. If that, of course, sounds like too much work, it is a lot of work, right? That's why you need a partner, or maybe you can go out there and hire a TA, a contracting recruiter, or maybe even find a specialized recruitment agency like ours to really help you build that pipeline of passive candidates and active who are able to do it very, very quickly, because we know how to get people excited about working for you and your team. If you're just starting out, a lot of people just think that hiring means post it on Monster, post it on Indeed, sit back, relax, cross your arms, and let the people come to you. Again, this is possible. You can, of course, find amazing people through Indeed, but would you rather go through 10 people where 1 or 2 are a good fit, or would you rather go through 10 people and all 10 are a good fit? So you can stop wasting money on everything else, focus on a great pipeline, get through them, find 2, 3, or 4, take them to the final round, and then get the job closed. That's how we're able to deliver for our clients over and over again. The second mistake I see that hiring managers and founders do when it comes to interviewing: did you just start your own recruitment agency and are struggling getting your own clients? Are you thinking about starting your own agency but afraid to make the jump? Do you have your own clients but you're struggling to find the perfect candidates fast? Do you have a full-time job and wanted to do recruitment part-time to make more money on the side and have no idea how to? If you answered yes to any of these questions, please consider joining our private community. It is a trust-based community where recruiters around the world can support, collaborate, and work together on placements all around the year consistently. In this community, you will directly have access to the real open jobs of my team and of our members, and you will also have the chance to access trainings, events, giveaways, and much, much more. If you are part of this community, I communicate and work with you as if you were on my own team, and I'll do whatever I can to do a placement together with your client or candidate. So if you're struggling to get your own clients or candidates and you want a way you can make sure you can be busy all year round by having access to many more open roles, then this is something you need to look into. This is open to people around the world and is open for recruiters in every industry and experience levels, as we will always have a good number of variety of open jobs across sectors, markets, and industries. I'm really happy to say that within the first 30 days, we have already have a new member with minimal recruiting experience do his first placement that had a total fee of almost $30,000 US, and we are working hard to do many, many more this year. If you are interested and excited, there are only a limited number of spots open, so make sure you sign up quick at patreon.com/recruiterpreston. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Discord. We can set up a time to chat. See you on the other side. is they don't offer relo assistance. And to me, this kind of doesn't make any sense, because if you're willing to offer a competitive salary, you're willing to offer a bonus, maybe a sign-on bonus, even toss an equity on the back end or some sort of profit share, why wouldn't you consider relo assistance, right? The going after technical specialized talent is more competitive than ever. Everyone's going after the same talent. Even if you just really prefer to focus on your primary geographic location, let's say it's New York, and you only want to do the search in New York, that's fine, because New York is huge, right? Whether or not your location's big or not, you are also gonna miss out on a lot of people, perhaps in neighboring cities, neighboring states, that are open to relo, who are just as good, if not as good as like your tier 1 amazing ideal candidates, and you're just never gonna find them. You're never gonna have that discussion because you're keeping your targeting super focused, or you're just being very closed-minded and stubborn, saying, I don't wanna do any relo assistance. There are a lot of horror stories about relo assistance on the client and founder side, which I totally understand. Like, it's so much money, it takes up so much more time. But I also know, working with founders at many different types of companies, relo assistance doesn't have to be that expensive. It could be maybe a couple $1,000s. Maybe it could just be like willing to cover a portion, if not all the portion, of like logistics or a trucking service. Like, you can be creative here. Any little thing that you're able to offer the candidate goes a long way. So it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I have to offer $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. It's a case-by-case basis. And most of the time, if you find a really good candidate who is excited, they go through the process, they're closed mentally, you know, they really want to find it work, you can meet in the middle somewhere and make it happen. But by you just only focused on your immediate geographic location, you'd be surprised how many rock stars you're just not going to be able to find, or you just completely overlook based on your targeting criteria. So my biggest recommendation is be open-minded. If not to talent across the entire country, maybe your time zone, maybe surrounding states, maybe nearby cities within a couple-hour drive that you know, they might be open to actually relocating to New York if needed, right? Or wherever your company is located. So I would say have an open mind. No need to figure out exactly what relo assistance means for you and your team and company. Focus more on finding a great candidate, and then you can figure it out. And again, relo assistance doesn't have to be like the end of the world, an arm and leg, like a huge lump sum. It can be a lot more affordable than you actually think. The third hiring interview mistakes that we see a lot is companies just making their interview process too long. We're now seeing more and more companies offer like a 1 to 4 week trial interview period at the end. We're seeing companies asking candidates to do all this like ridiculous amount of take-home assignments and case studies that will take not hours, but days. Here's the thing, hiring for your team just one person is hard enough, right? And if you think you're the next best-in-class company, or you think you have a company with a great brand, that can only go so far, right? Chances are, if you find a really good talent, most likely they will be talking to at least 1 to 3 other companies, minimum. If it's a super hot competitive market, that number can be a lot higher. So if you find someone, optically, you know, they look fantastic, they absolutely crush the first or second round interviews, you and your team are getting excited about the prospect of hiring this guy, but then your interview process is, you know, gonna take like 5 weeks. What happens if they're also in process with other competing companies that are able to match everything you're able to match, from team, culture, similar products, similar space, compensation, equity, title, but their process takes only like 1 to 2 weeks? What do you think is gonna happen? Most people, no matter how excited they are about you, they're not gonna be able to wait that long. You gotta do what you can to be able to condense your interview process as much as possible, condense the trial period. I understand every stage has a reason, but I want to push back and challenge you. Like, does this have to take days when it can take a day or maybe several hours? Does the trial period have to be 2 to 4 weeks when it can just be maybe 1 to 2 weeks? Anything that you can do, any lever that you could modify to shorten the process will make your process a lot more competitive for the candidates. A candidate, if they're engaged, that's a great thing, but every stage that you carry them on is going to be even more important for the company to find creative ways to keep that candidate engaged while they start new discussions with other companies that might have a snazzier founder, trendier investors, more sexy of a product that they're building. I think, in my humble opinion, it's always great to be able to have a very methodical interview process, build that pipeline up, but also find ways for candidates to kind of go through it relatively quickly. Faster the candidate's able to go through the process and you like them, you're competitive, you don't have to worry about bidding offers. If you come out with a strong offer, there's a strong chance you might be able to close that candidate and have them just shut down all the other interview processes. I would rather you do that than having to wait, and then you could lose out or miss out on your candidate because they got multiple offers and your stage still has 4 to 6 more weeks to go. They're not going to be sitting around and waiting. And if they are, you might find yourself a unicorn, but if you're looking for multiple people in one team, or you're hiring across multiple multiple divisions and departments, you're gonna end up losing a lot of money, productivity, performance on the table, and then on top of that, filling up the calendar of your team who has to also assist you with the interviews that are just not making your overall company just optimized in terms of productivity and performance as your collective group or team as a whole. My biggest recommendation is keep the interview processes short. I would say 3 to 5 rounds is industry standard. If you want to toss in a technical round, you want to toss in maybe assignment, that's great, but try to be empathetic and try to create something where it wouldn't take, more than a couple of several hours of a candidate. Another thing is that many candidates who are in process with companies, if all of the processes require them to do it as some sort of take-home assignment or trial, they're simply just going to prioritize the ones that are going to ask the less of them. Candidates have to interview while most likely having another job. Just interviewing at one other company is stressful enough. It takes up a lot of time. And then, you toss in 1 to 3 other processes. All of them wanted to do super days. All of them want them to do a take-home assignment. It's going to stress out the candidate a lot. Try to put yourself in the candidate's point of view. Try to keep your interview process smooth and frictionless and enjoyable. If you're able to get your candidate through the offer, perhaps you beat the processes of other companies, come out with your best offer from the get-go and see if you can close the candidates. And that's how we're just able to just do all these placements consistently over and over and over again in a very competitive market. I know that if I talk to someone, most likely they're going to be interviewing at multiple other companies. If they genuinely are interested, if the candidates are genuinely interested in the opportunities for one of my clients, I want to do whatever I can to guide that candidate to the finish line, because the candidate would want that, the client, the company would want that, and everyone would want to talk about the fun offer stuff sooner rather than later. The last mistake I see when it comes to interviewing and hiring is that companies aren't taking the role of the team or the function of recruiters seriously. You have to understand that recruiters do some of the most pivotal work at a company. They are most likely going to be the first pass, the first experience that a candidate would have about your company, aside from talking to the founder directly. So assuming the founder doesn't have time and assuming the first touch is usually a recruiter, if you don't train the recruiter enough, you don't equip, you don't recruit or even interview for really good recruiters on your team, no matter how amazing your investors are, how your team, your founder's background or the product is, if the recruiter drops its ball, if you're setting your recruiters up for failure and not for success, you're gonna actually end up turning off a lot of talent who interfaces or engages with that recruiter, who perhaps doesn't know what they're doing, how to effectively communicate or even get people excited, or perhaps maybe they're instructed by the founders to not be able to share critical information that otherwise would have really helped to engage potential talent. So recruiting is one of the most important functions that a company can have. It's arguably one of the most important to help the company continue to grow and scale and maintain their team. When you interview at a company, think of all the companies you interviewed in your company. Most likely you interface with the internal recruiter. And if you had an amazing experience with the internal recruiter, the experience was fantastic, the bedside manner, the hospitality was absolutely impeccable, that could potentially leapfrog that opportunity, even with a less sexier company, more of a tier 2 company, than a sexy tier 1, amazing creme de la creme company with a horrible interview process. Candidates will simply just walk away because they don't have time to deal with that. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And if they think that you're not taking the interview process seriously, you might not take other things seriously in your company. And perhaps they don't want to risk that. So my biggest recommendation is when we interface with companies and clients is to really help them understand that what we do is pivotal. And you want to do whatever you can to give your recruiters, your internal recruiter with the adequate ammo so that they can do their jobs the best and go out there and find you rock stars for your team. I hope this video helps. It's educational. If there are other mistakes that you see a lot of companies do or founders do, please comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. But I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.